What's up? Hi, hi, hi. As you can see, we're in the middle of moving. And I'm embracing this nastiness that I'm in right now. But normally on Mondays, we talk a little bit about what's going on in the stas and the astrology and all that good stuff. Today, we're doing a little free for all. Okay, we're talking about something a little more broader, something a little more general. Although, arguably, talking about astrology is also broad as well. I mean, it's physically broad, right? So, we're going to be talking about what high performance looks like when you're self sabotaging, or as a high performer, if you are self sabotaging. Are you trying to fix the unfixable? Maybe you don't realize you're a high performer, but you do realize that you might be in a situation where you're trying to fix the unfixable. Maybe you're trying to figure out, is this an unfixable situation? And this can literally be, it can be professional. It can be personal, like relationships. It could be social relationships. Maybe you're trying to figure out, maybe you're just stuck in trying to figure out, okay, is this something that ultimately will change, or am I on a cycle of doom? I mean, I'll tell you straight up, if you're asking yourself that, probably. Just gonna be real. You don't have to watch this whole thing to figure that out, okay? But there's exceptions to the rule, and there's lots of nuance in the beautiful expansiveness of our lives. So I totally understand, right? How we might feel like, please don't tell me that this is all this is, right? The easiest way to kind of explain this or sort of visualize this is through the examples of, say, you have a personal relationship, and this can be maybe a friend, but especially romantic partners, we might have this, and even types of romantic partners as well. And then also professionally, right? Professionally, you're in like, oh my God, is this going to get better? Because what? Why? And so that's ultimately what we want to do here, right? We want to figure out, is this, first we want to identify, right? First we want to identify if you are, in fact, a high performer that is self-sabotaging. And then there's more you can do with that. There's more you can answer in the inner stuff to try to figure out, okay, now what do I do, right? Because there can be a lot of different reasons for a lot of different things, and there can be multiple different solutions for multiple different people. It really depends on what you're going through, what your nuance is, and of course, not any solution is, there's more than one ways to skin a cat, as I recently said to my 17-year-old son, and he was like, what? I was like, you've never heard that before? He's like, no, that's disgusting. I was like, oh, well, it's true. It's true. Also, apologies. You can see the light every so often shining on my face. I apologize. So first, I'm going to get into a couple things, like what it looks like, okay, what this looks like, fixing the unfixable, being a high performer who is self-sabotaging is ultimately what that is. Let me give you the equation here, okay? If you are a high performer, and you add in self-sabotage, you will essentially net out as an overperformer. Okay. So just top line here, TLDR, can't watch the whole thing. That's what it's going to look like. You're going to look like an overperformer, even though you're probably keeping things, you're the one who's probably keeping things afloat, or you feel like you're the one who's keeping things afloat. Okay. So you essentially are an overperformer. Maybe you don't see it that way, but that's essentially what happens. Okay. So when you're a high performer and you're in self sabotage mode, you have a tendency to do too much. Okay. Okay. Now, we're going to get into what it looks like. We're going to get into what it feels like. Okay. And ultimately, where it all really nets out in terms of that experience. Okay. And then just like how to manage the aftermath, maybe if this is the situation that you're in. And some really easy ways to just be cognizant, because honestly, the hardest lessons create the best lessons, right? They create they create true value for us when we go through hard lessons. And you'll keep going through hard lessons if you don't learn that lesson. But if we can provide some awareness along the way, it's ultimately you that has to be in that state of readiness to be like, yeah, I want to change this shit, right? So this isn't like 3 steps to change your life. This is just like, all right, let's just be aware. Let's just be self-aware. And when the time comes and arrives and sits at our feet, that we know what to do with it, right? So ultimately what it looks like, okay? So what this looks like is it's the appearance of something that's high value, okay? So if it's a job, and I'm not going to name companies, but there's some very, very prestigious companies, okay, that everybody knows, but there's very prestigious companies that have the appearance of high value, okay? This is not uncommon. So they have the appearance of high value either societally, like as a brand, they're super marketable, they're super recognizable. So they have the appearance of high value, or they're marketed as high value either through the interview process, through how they position the position, right? And how they sell themselves and to you as a potential employer. As in a relationship, okay, this can be somebody who is like fabulously good looking, comes off as like, aloof but accessible, has a lot going on, but maybe doesn't have a lot going on. Like this can just appear to be someone who, for whatever reason to you, right? Because we're all attracted to different things for the most part, but to you comes off as high value for whatever reason. I say super attractive, but there's also people who are like not very attractive, but they look like a 7, maybe a 4, but because they have money or because they have friends or because they have high social status, they come off as high value, right? They come off as an 8, a 9, a 10, right? This happens all the time. So anyways, there's the appearance of high value, okay? To you, your perception is that this is high value. Perception is high value, but what ends up happening is that there's also some chaos. And you're not like unaware of the fact that there's chaos. For instance, these companies, right? As you start getting into the interview process, or maybe you get in the company, all of a sudden it's like things are a little disorganized. Yes, we're trying to figure this out. Da, 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 da. And maybe they don't use those words. That they could also be like, we're in transition. We're trying to figure out, we're reorging. We haven't been able to find someone to head this department. So, these are the expectations on you, or blah, 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 right? There's this perception of like accepted chaos, that this is just part of the package. for relationships, it's like, oh, well, my life is all over the place. I'm non-committal, or like I have poor emotional regulation, right? But like that's something I'm working on. I'm saying these things out loud. That's essentially the messaging though. Okay. That's essentially the messaging is I'm not perfect, but I'm high value. Okay. I'm not perfect, but I'm high value. What these things trigger in you is an eagerness. This is what all this really comes down to. This is what all this comes down to is an eagerness to prove yourself for whatever reason. And that, there can be a lot of unpacking on that side, right? But that eagerness to prove yourself, if you're a high performer, even if you don't think you're a high performer, with these elements in place, you become a high performer, right? Because you have an eagerness to prove yourself. Maybe somebody's telling you you're not worth it, or like you're lucky to be in this company, or you feel like that, or whatever, right? Because of the appearance of high value, because they're not perfect, but there's the appearance of high value. You're ready and available to prove yourself. You want to prove yourself. Okay? And these situations can also, and not to say that this equals anything to this, but what also can end up happening is like this imposter syndrome, right? You may have like you may be like, I know how to do my job. I know I can do this. I know I can help. I know I can make an impact. And you can still feel imposter syndrome, right? Because again, this very key thing here is the appearance of high value. We don't really have an eagerness to prove ourselves unless there's something that attracts us to that. And value can also have many different forms because we can value different things as people, as individuals. We can value different things, right? We can see potential, right? As potential alone as high value, right? Because you might think there's going to be a great return on this, right? There's a great return in some way, shape, or form. But again, the appearance of. So there's the appearance of high value. There's some imperfection, but it's accepted in some way. If it's a relationship, again, somebody seems like they're just very high potential, like, oh my God, I can fix him. Classic, right? But we all kind of do that in a little bit, in a little way, especially when we're on the journey of finding our relationship, our one. What do we have a tendency to do? Make excuses. Oh, well, because of this. Well, you should see the way his parents treat him, or you should the way he was raised, right? And the environment he used to be homeless, right? Like just all these things that we make up for. It's his culture. It's his culture. He's from a different country. There's a million things we could say or do, right? To make excuses for ultimately something that's imperfect, that has the appearance of high value for us, and we want to prove ourselves. All right, that's what it looks like. What it looks like. What it feels like. All right, this is what it feels like. Oh, another thing too is like what's happening is like there's like reward. Okay. There may be situations in where like especially when you are overperforming, you stayed up until 2 a.m. to finish a deck. You went above and beyond to get him, this thing that he needed, or you like paid for all of her shit or something, and her carburetor needed to be replaced or something. Like, so you go over above and beyond, and then you get a little taste of reward, right? And they go, oh, you're so good. Oh my God. Oh, thank you. you get a sense of, oh, I'm peeking into what it feels like to also be high value. All right, so this goes into what this looks like or what this feels like, okay? We gonna unpack it. We're getting down one layer now, okay? There is a disconnect. You may know in your knowing that you are valuable. You may know, be like, I'm worthy, right? I'm amazing. I do great shit. I can do this. Like, I know that I can do cool shit, right? I know that I'm an amazing partner, right? But there's something you don't actually believe it. You haven't actually integrated that into your belief systems. Because if you did integrate into your belief systems, it would be reflected in your decision making. Okay. But you're taking a high value appearance of something that's really chaotic. Okay. But that value proposition is just enough to trigger your eagerness to prove. You have nothing to prove if you already believe that you are high value, right? If you already believe that you're worthy of just having cool shit, being able to do cool shit, and be celebrated for doing cool shit, period, without needing the chaos, without needing all the weird shit going on. Like, what was that? Why are they looking at me weird? Oh my God, they think I'm sleeping with him? No, I'm just doing my job. I have nothing to do with him. Oh, it's because she did. Oh, and is that why that all the drama and all that? Who the fuck wants that? Nobody. Unless you're like, aha, I can rise to the occasion. I'm gonna show that I'm a badass. Because I can do this. Oh, I can absolutely do this, right? It feels safer. It feels safer to work in a place where the barrier to entry is actually low. It's actually low. Like these companies I could tell you about, right? They have the appearance of high value, but if you go through enough hoops, you have just enough on your resume, and you appear very eager, and they'll be like, okay, but on the condition of, right? There's just all this. It's like, no, I'm going to provide value for you. Here's what I can provide value for you in, right? And is this a good culture fit? Is this a good fit, period? That's the only thing we should be concerned of. You're not doing me any favors, and I'm not going to do you any favors because I'm going to pay. I'm going to do what you pay me for, right? I can speak English. I can speak English. So yeah, so the way it feels is ultimately there's this hueco, there's this hole in you. There's this disconnect where you haven't actually integrated the belief system that you are worthy and that you do actually have value. You feel like you need to put yourself in these chaotic situations to prove it. To prove it. So there's this part of you that goes, well, if I can get through this professionally, especially, right? If I can get through this, then I will prove that I'm a really good manager. I will prove that I'm a really good XYZ, blah, 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 right? I will prove that. I just need to fix this first. And now we've gotten to are you fixing the unfixable, right? On the personal side, you may know in your knowing, even though you wouldn't admit it to nobody, you may know in your knowing that this person that you're with is not forever. It's not forever. But You may feel, but if I can do this, if I can prove how amazing and above and beyond I'm going for this mediocre, right, person, as a person who has the appearance of high value, I will increase my value, right? Because then I'm with someone who had the appearance of high value. I came out of that. I survived. And I came out the saint because I did everything that I could, right? I did everything I could. And I went above and beyond. I was the best girlfriend. I was such a good boyfriend. Oh, she was so high maintenance. I took care of her. Da 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 da. He was so emotionally abusive, but I worked with him. I got him into therapy. Ba 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 ba. Right? You don't owe that person anything, and they don't owe you anything if there is an understanding about actual value and actual contribution to the task at hand. Okay? But it feels safer because there's actually a lower barrier to entry. But you've sold it to yourself in your head that this has high value. There's high value here. And that if you get yourself involved, that means that it kind of increases your value. Now, where does this actually net out? And here's the question. Are you trying to fix the unfixable? And the short answer, as I told you at the very top of this, at the very beginning, is yeah, you're trying to fix the unfixable. Okay? That's like, if you're asking yourself that, is this unfixable? Am I trying to fix the unfixable? Am I in a cycle right now of really personal abuse because you're choosing to stay, right? Yes. Yes. You are in a cycle because all this is going to net out is burnout. Okay? At first, you come off as the savior, you're the fixer, you make shit happen, you are a vision, you are a breath of fresh air, you are, right? And that is enough in the beginning to give you that fix, to feel like you yourself are high value. It starts to create a connection between what you think you know and this is what it feels like. This is what it feels like. But it becomes a vicious cycle once you keep thinking to yourself, okay, but I have to fix this. If I can't actually fix this, and there's another fire, and there's another disaster, and here's another thing, and there's another thing, you are now being taken advantage of. And that can be, because I'm not here to judge, but that can be a great fit if you're willing to be in that cycle where your eagerness to prove, and you've got something to prove, and they've got an eagerness to essentially take advantage of you, but you feel worthy in that cycle, that can work out just great. But don't get it mixed up. Nothing is going to change. Nothing's going to change. I've been in several companies and a few different industries where this has been the case for me. This is for sure something that I have experienced. And as much as I want to deny in relationships too, I can't deny it. I've done it in relationships too. Absolutely, I've done it in relationships too. Because I feel like I'm lacking in some way. So I have to find these situations that ultimately give me a little value prop where in the end I can feel better about myself. I am a workaholic. I am an overperformer for sure. But you know where it netted out? Being burnt out AF. Okay, not just burnt out AF. I burnt out so hard it took years. Your whole neurological functions. You start to think that that chaos you're in and that cycle you're in is normal. And not just normal, but it's exciting. It's exciting. And it's got this fire and it makes you feel alive. And even though in reality you're a terrible procrastinator and you're all these other things, right? When you're doing this, you feel worthy because you know all your weaknesses. You know everything that you're bad at. But in these chaotic situations, it's only what you're doing to keep things afloat and your overperformance that gets looked at. Okay. And then if your weaknesses get brought up, you can be like, are you kidding me? I am dealing with so much. Right? I am dealing with so much. I'm dealing with your bullshit. I'm dealing with your bullshit. I'm dealing with your bullshit. When it really, yeah, no, you're not doing, yeah, we got weaknesses. We can't take feedback. It's very, very difficult. And that's something that I've noticed a lot is if you are a high performer who self-sabotages and you have a tendency to overperform, okay, it's very difficult to take feedback. It's very difficult because you're covering up a lot by trying to be the savior, by trying to be the one that fixes the unfixable problem. So, okay, Cheryl, where does this, what? Okay, so you can burn out. I can tell you all the risks or whatever. Here's the reality though. Like I said, again, at the very top, because TLDR, y'all, I know you may not have time, but where this ultimately, where this can become something of value is if you allow the hard lesson to be what it is, which is a lesson, right? In this life, we're not meant to be stuck in cycles. There's no life that is meant to be stuck in cycles. Why? Because if on the cellular level, we're going through cycles. We're going through a life cycle. Every day we're older. Okay? Every day we're older. By the sheer fact that every day we are older, we are iterating. We are in flux. We are not meant to be going in a circle, right? We can't. Every day is different. Every single day is different. There's absolutely zero day where the exact same shit repeats itself. This is not Groundhog's Day. Okay? And even that made people crazy. In those movies, there was 2 movies, right? I think there was 2 movies. Or was there a show too? I don't know. Anyways, so some things to keep in mind, okay? Are you in this? Are you going through this? Are you trying to do better? Okay? If you want to do better for yourself and you want to feel better, I'm just going to leave you with this. And obviously we can take this into deeper places, but okay, there's really 3 spheres of influence that are reflections and reinforce how we feel about ourselves. Okay? They're reflections and they reinforce really how we feel about ourselves and how we treat ourselves and how we see ourselves. Okay? And that is very simple. Very simple. Social, personal, and professional. Very simple. Maybe you don't have a big social life. It's okay. Maybe you work at a small professional company. That's okay. Maybe you're a solopreneur. You only deal with yourself. But who are your clients? Okay, or maybe not clients, or maybe, you know what I mean? It can be small. Personal. Maybe it's just you. Maybe you're not in a relationship, right? Maybe you don't date. That's okay. This fits every spectrum, and the size does not mean anything necessarily. And it's not like you have to have a large social circle or have to have a small social circle. Doesn't mean you have to have lots of professional influence or zero professional influence. There's no right or wrong, okay? But the people that are in that environment, how do they treat you? How do they treat you? This is not something to maybe answer right now, but something to reflect on, right? The people that you allow into your space. There's these 3 spheres, and they integrate with you and they enter your personal space. So as they enter your personal space, how are they treating you? How are they treating that sacred space? Okay? If we are feeling taken advantage of, maybe we feel, and at the end of the day, yeah, I am being taken advantage of. The first step is just admitting that. With most of my clients, it's not about, okay, how do we make change right now, actively? How do we do different? No. It starts here. Okay? Sometimes we have to fake it till we make it. That's totally fine. That's again, everyone's a little different. But generally speaking, we're not always equipped, especially when we've got these really integrated circles, maybe. Okay? And action can actually be a lot harder because of routine, because of familiarity, which happens. See, the hardest decisions to make, the hardest changes to make, they're hard because they're so integrated into our lives, into our routine. So, what I ask my clients to do is simply first be aware when it's happening. Just, you don't have to say anything either. You don't have to, you don't have to be like, I'm going to stand up for myself right now. No, because that's not everybody's style, right? Some people, maybe, that's great, but it's not necessary. But just be aware. And then you can study more. You can be more aware. You can be like, oh, this is how they talk to me. Interesting. Why are they talking to me like that? Why are they talking to me like that and they're talking to her like that? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, well, maybe it's nothing. Okay, but then they sent me this email. What the heck? Or, why does he always talk to me about his ex-girlfriends? That is weird. It's weird that he always talks to me about his ex-girlfriend. Why is he talking to me about his ex-girlfriends? Like, before, maybe you thought of it, but you just dump it out of your mind. Because then you use the excuses. It's their background. It's what they went through. It's what they're going through. Things are just hard right now. We're just in a transition period. Okay. Be aware. Be aware. Just listen. That's all. Everyone can be trusted with themselves, okay? We're all learning. We're all growing. I wasn't always this upstanding citizen, which I wish were arguable because that'd be much more interesting, but it's true. I'm a very tax-paying suburban living mom. Ugh. But I used to be a hellraiser, okay? And from where I came from and the friends that I had and all the people I'd be around, I mean, we're talking convicts, drug addicts, just super interesting. Yeah, give them every excuse in the world. But the reality is that people grow, people learn, people figure out their shit in their own way. And you can also be trusted to figure out your shit. All right. Obviously, we can reach out for support, ask for help, all of these things. But you can make change in your life, right? But you don't have to do all this heavy lifting, but just be aware. It starts here, just by the awareness factor. Just by admitting, I do feel like that's weird. I do feel weird when they say that to me. I do feel weird. Okay, that's the only thing I'm admitting to today, right? Moving on with your life. The next day, okay, that does stress me out. Yeah, it stresses me out when he talks to me like that. Or what? Why does my boss is yelling at me again? Yes, my boss is yelling at me again. Okay, yeah, no, I know that's not normal. It's okay. I can admit it to myself. That's not normal. That's it. Just by being in that awareness. Every time I talk to my mom, I'm super stressed out. Every time I talk to my mom, I can't relax. It ruins my day. It does. It does. Right? Having these moments where you're able to just be real with yourself and you can just leave it there. I'm telling you right now, you don't need to do anything else. If you don't feel compelled to do anything else and you don't want to do anything else, that's okay. We're not here to judge you because of what you do or don't want to do. All we want to do is identify if there is something that you are denying within yourself. So just first realize that that thought is happening and just validate that thought. And that's it. Leave it there. And organically, you will be able to come to your own conclusions. And you can also realize, no, this is just me, right? You can say, like, I definitely was the instigator in that situation. Like, I didn't have to talk that way. And then you start to self-correct, and then you can see how that nets out. Do people now talk to you differently? Are people talking to you the same? Are you trying really hard to not give someone the backhand, right? But just by being aware of what's going through your thought process is everything. And that's going to allow you, okay, to just identify. And in this context, are you trying to fix an unfixable problem? Are you in a cycle of trying to prove something to yourself that in reality you already know, or else you wouldn't have been in that situation to begin with? But because you haven't integrated that belief system that you are worthy, that you are valuable, okay, you're in this cycle of, I just need to fix this and then I deserve something better. I just need to fix this and then I can move on. I just need some closure in this. And then, right? But the reality is, and no matter how you leave, this is funny and unfortunate. Whether you leave 2 weeks notice, 8 weeks notice, whatever it is, it's not going to make a difference. People are going to feel about you the way they have felt about you. And that's for another time. But when it comes to leaving people, when it comes to all of a sudden pulling the trigger and either leaving a relationship, creating boundaries, right? Leaving a job, changing a job, moving. People will feel about you the way they have felt about you. And that is on period. You cannot expect that people who all of a sudden flip on a dime because you make a change for yourself, that they were real with you to begin with. Any transition, right, should always be met with support, with love, with curiosity. Okay? And if those things change because you want better for yourself, you need to look at that situation sideways. Because if people really love you, they really want to support you, okay? If you say that I got to do what's best for me, it may be hard. It may be hard, But ultimately, people are going to be curious and be like, yeah, whatever you got to do, that sucks because I won't see you every day or whatever, right? But people are going to feel about you the way they have felt about you. And that is not your problem to solve for because you've already been doing you. You've already been doing you. But if you want to do better for yourself, you are allowed to do that. You are allowed to do that, and any transition is going to be difficult. But when it comes to the optics, people are going to feel about you the way they have felt about you. And that is already done. That's already done. Okay? So, I gotta go. I gotta get my nails done. And by get my nails done, I mean like, I texted my nail guy. I'm like, actually, I texted from Lala Boo Boo's. He's like my drug dealer. Even though we haven't, okay, we've bought 3. But I was like, what's the deal on Boo Boo's? I want to get my daughter one for her birthday. He's like, you coming in at 11:30? I'm like, stop. Yes, they're sad. But it's, we're moving. I'm like, we got to be like responsible with the budget right now. We're going to be paying rent or 2 mortgages. And he's like, we just quick fix. Quick fix. Okay, fine. So I got to go over there. But I love you guys. You're amazing. You're awesome. You're already perfect. And you got this. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you want to schedule a session with me, go to schedulewithpilar.com. And yeah, find whatever is available. And don't forget to subscribe. Yard. I don't know why I did that. There you go. All right, you guys, I love you. Have fun. And then next Monday, we're going to be talking about the new moon. So that'll be fun. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay, now we're going to do this.